Hi, welcome to Bright Hope Creations. I'm Kara, and today we're going to personalize an appreciation card. And so we're using All Star, Henry Jr.'s ABCs, Tiny Sports Friends, Tiny Friends, Stadium Seating with Shimmer Cardstock Neutrals, Metallic Cardstock and Silver, and Blue Jay and Chili Pepper Cardstock, along with white, Fishtail Banner Borders in white cardstock and also Chili Pepper and Blue Jay, a banner from the Heart Garland Backdrop Landscape, the oval coordinating die from Giant Birthday Messages, and the circle coordinating die from Magic Messages. I'm starting by stamping out all the little tiny friends and sports friends and the all-star images with jet black ink. I picked them up on the door of my Misty and inking them up and then stamping them down. I actually stamped them twice to get a good crisp image, and then I'm going to clean off my stamps with my chamois. Next, it's time to color these images. So I put a piece of black cardstock underneath. I always like to have a piece of cardstock under my images when I color. I don't know, but it just seems like my Copic markers seem to blend better when there's a piece of paper underneath. I used an E00 to color all of the skin, and now I'm using a variety of E20s to give different shades of skin colors. So about a year ago, my sister-in-law had a total knee replacement, and she worked with a physical therapist that just inspired her and motivated her. And so she asked me to make her a card that had basketball on it because apparently they have this whole rivalry going on for March Madness, and she likes Duke and the physical therapist likes Wisconsin. So of course out comes the Tiny Sports Friends stamp set, and it's a great way to personalize your images, because you can make them in the colors that you want. So now I'm coloring up the hair, and that basketball player, the girl, that is my sister-in-law, and she's got brown hair, and she puts it in a ponytail, so this was really a good one for her. And so I'm using E20s, but also Y20s and E30s to do the different hair colors. Oh, and also some C's, some cool gray for the gray-haired fans in the crowd. I stamped all the tiny friends and colored their skin and hair, but I'm not going to use them all as spectators, so I'll just choose a few to represent Duke and Wisconsin. So I looked up that Duke is blue and white, and so here is my sister-in-law Barb in her blue and white sports gear, and I'm using B24 and B28 for that. And now it's just a matter of coloring the different Duke fans in different ways. So just kind of making that fun, some stripes and solids, anything blue and white, and really just the two shades of blue are all I need for these tiny people. Grandpa Larry is wearing his lucky cardigan, and now it is time to color up those Wisconsin fans. I see Grandma Rose is wearing her lucky cardigan too, so I don't know who's going to win this game. I do know I wasn't pleased with that red and white striped skirt she's wearing, so I do go back and just give her a two-tone red striped skirt. I know it's not a big deal, but sometimes it's just fun to get hung up on those little details. I'm giving this guy a W on his shirt, and so I thought, well, I should go back and give one of the Duke fans a D on her shirt as well. So just want to balance this out a bit. I can't forget the Wisconsin player, and that would be the physical therapist. So my sister-in-law and the physical therapist are playing a game of one-on-one. Well, a little bit of cool gray to give some shading to the white areas, and then onto the basketball. And I'm using YR 14, 16, and 27 to shade that. Actually, I stamped both the large one from All Star and the small one from Tiny Sports Friends. But you can see my basketball hoop is the large one from All Star. And it's based on the way I have this card kind of set up. And we'll talk about that more when we put the card together. But I wasn't sure which ball I was going to use, either the larger ball near the net or the smaller ball near one of the tiny people. So we'll look at that as we get closer. So I cut those all out with the coordinating dies, and now I have a 4¼ by 5½ inch piece of narwhal cardstock and a 4¼ by 3-inch piece of wood grain cardstock. I cut my stadium seating in half so that it'll be divided on both sides of the card, and deciding where to put the banners. So this is another element that could be personalized, and in the banners we can have the colors for Duke and the colors for Wisconsin. I'm just gluing on those different flags. Those pennants come with the stadium seating, and then the curved fishtail banners are part of the fishtail banner borders. When I cut my bleachers in half, I didn't have the seats on them, so I need to go back and glue the seats on there. So I used that shimmer cardstock in the neutral, the silver, and then the metallic silver cardstock as the seats. It's kind of a nice combination. It gives it its own shading without having to do any shading. Let's move on to the wood floor. So this is the wood grain cardstock. It's the light pack, and I wanted to make it look like there were different shades to the boards in the flooring. And so I used the E31 and then the E33 and just doing back and forth type streaks and then blending it in a little bit more, making it softer with the E30. Now, if we were to look at the floor from above, the Secret Garden window dies would be perfect for that shape that goes on the floor, but we're going to put this kind of as we're looking towards the basket. And so I needed a curve that was a little bit longer, and so I'm using the Giant Birthday Messages oval to give me that curve, and I'm just tracing that with my pencil. And I decided I wanted to know where the midpoint was on the long and short side. So I'm taking my ruler and finding the center, and that will help me keep everything sort of even on both sides. I'm tracing part of that circle. I had to look online to just kind of make sure I knew what this basketball floor looked like. And as I am extending those lines out from that half circle, I want to make sure that they go in a little bit so that there's some perspective of them being bigger on the part by the circle and then smaller towards the basket. It gives that illusion of distance, like the part of the floor near the basket is further away, and it didn't have to go in much. It went in 1/8 of an inch on both sides. At first I thought I'd do 1/4, and that seemed too much, so just 1/8 of an inch, but I think I used one measurement on one side and the other measurement, so 1/8 on one side and 1/4 on the other side. You'll see I need to fix that. But using a white gel pen, I'm just going over the pencil lines, and I go over a couple of times to make it a bit thicker looking. But here now you can see that they're not even, but I'll continue tracing over everything and then come back, and I'm going to use the one that's 1/4 inch in. So both sides will be a little further in, and it worked out. All I need to do now is I'll start by scraping off some of that white gel, and then using an eraser, I can kind of get it to look all right. And that's a Tombow Mono sand eraser. All right, I want to ink blend the background so that it kind of looks like it's darker back there behind the crowd. I'm using some Hickory Smoke Distress ink and ink blending it with a blender brush. Now I'm using some 1/4 inch double-sided tape to add the floor to the background. You could use glue or a tape runner too. There's no reason it has to be the double-sided tape. Anyway, now I'm just going to position my bleachers there and my banners, see where I want them. Now really those bleachers I know are on the sides of the basketball court, but for our purposes to have everybody seen in this scene, this worked out well. Glue on the fishtail banners and cut off the excess. And so Wisconsin will be on the right side of the card, and we'll have the Duke fans on the left side of the card. Next, I'll glue on the bleachers, and I'll use my scissors to kind of help with any glue that's hanging out there to scrape that off. Scissors sure do come in handy for scraping things. And now I can cut off the excess parts of the bleachers. Now with the background all put together, we can put on our basketball players and the fans in all of their cheering gear. So the pennants, and then the foam finger I've got there will change. I realize that it's going the wrong way. Lawn Fawn makes a foam finger of 2 sizes, and this is the smaller of the size, but also one going each way. So that's very handy, and I do switch it out for the one that's going the right way for this fan. There it is. Well, another fun thing you could do is just make it out of craft foam. So maybe I'll do that on the next card. Just adding a couple more fans and then deciding on the basketball. You can tell I already decided on the small one, but I wanted to show you what the large one would look like, and that I would put if it was right up by the basket. I added the sentiment border to the bottom of the card just to see where I wanted to position my basketball players, and then I'm going to add the sentiment. So here's the third element of personalizing this. So we did it with the tiny friends and we did it with the banners, but also with the sentiment, because this sentiment comes from All Star and it says, couldn't swish for a better friend, but I'm switching it out to say, I couldn't swish for a better PT. So a physical therapist or physiotherapist, depending on where you're from. And I'm using Henry Jr.'s ABCs to do that. Now, Lawn Fawn's letters line up perfectly and you can put them together so they're spaced just right, but I was kind of being a little bit more whimsical with the way I positioned the I and the PT just for fun. I decided to add a little more dimension to the card by putting the basket on some foam adhesive and also the banner on some foam adhesive. All that's left is to add this to a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch note card, and our card is done. A custom made Duke and Wisconsin basketball rivalry appreciation card. Well, I hope you enjoyed the video today and it inspired you to think of how to personalize a card for yourself. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.